All right, welcome back to CK Creations. And today we're going to be working on that neck that we started to build last week. And I promised you we would be talking a little bit about hide glue and a little bit about gluing that scarf joint that we created last week together. So that's what we're here to do today. So let's first talk about this. This is hide glue. It's animal protein. I get mine from, actually I think it comes from Amazon, but it's actually made by Luthier Supply. It's 192 gram strength. There's several different strengths it comes in, but this is the more common one. What I do is I take this animal protein, you can see it's just, powder, right? It's powder, crystals, little pellets of stuff. And what I do is I mix that in water, and then I put, which I use this little mason jar for, so I put some the hide glue in pellet form in here with water. Then I put it and submerge it in a water bath in this little crock pot. And as it gets, the water is absorbed by the pellets, and then it eventually melts together, making a nice thin glue. That's what we're going to be using to put our scarf joint together. Now, why do I use hide glue? I don't think it's better or worse. Actually, I did a little research, and if you look online, a lot of people say that it's stronger, than the PVA, the carpenter wood glue, right? The yellow or white carpenter's glue, which is known as PVA. Some people say it's stronger. I'm not so sure that's the truth. It has some advantages, I guess. When it dries, it's very like crystal almost, right? It's very like glass almost, kind of. And I think that transfers resonance throughout the guitar better. Does it make a difference? Probably not. But I mean, I guess every little bit does, and I have to use something. I gotta use some glue. So I choose to use this, just because it's kind of fun to learn and just another step in the process of learning as much as I can about guitars. So I think this transfers tone better than a PVA type of glue, because if you've ever seen carpenter's glue, right? Even after it's dried, it has some elasticity to it. Well, that's going to be a tone, a vibration dampener. So that's why I use it. Now, the one big drawback to using hide glue is once it comes out of that mason jar sitting in hot water, it starts getting dry and it starts clamping. So you got to move fast. And I don't know if you can see it or not behind me here, but that's the neck that we're going to be putting together. And you can see that I've already tried a few times, done some trial runs, exactly how I'm going to put it back into this joint. So I'll make sure everything's straight and true and flat, because I don't want to be playing around. Once the glue's on there, I want to get it done. But I thought we better talk about the hide glue first. So now the hide glue has reached a consistency where it's nice and watery, right? It just drips off the brush, right? So we're ready to get started, and I'm going to change the camera angle so you can see the wood that we're going to be working on a little bit better, and then we're going to glue it, and we're going to throw it back in that clamp setup that I have right there super quick, and then we're going to let it dry. All right? Okay, so we're getting ready to glue the neck blank. So here's the neck blank, right? I got the two pieces. This is the neck. This is the headstock. Here's my scarf joint, right, that we cut last week. We used the scarf joint jig to smooth it out, sand it down. It's perfect. Everything's wonderful. I've put some square lines on there. I've made sure everything is straight and true as I can get it. And I've clamped the neck down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the headstock to the neck. And then I'm gonna grab these clamps, and watching my square lines, I'm gonna make sure that everything lines up appropriately and that everything is tight, so that when it's all done, it'll be glued and it will be straight and true, ready to be a guitar neck. as I showed you, right behind me is the little crock pot with the hide glue in it, and I think we're ready to start. So here we go. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time. I'm going to get it done. Okay, we're putting it together. I see my square lines. It's already starting to set up on me. I get good squeeze out, I see coming out everywhere. Everything is straight on the square lines. We got a nice flat plane. Yep, nice and flat plane. Everything looks tight. The joint is in. I think we're good. All right, so we got the hide glue on the scarf joint. The scarf joint is clamped in. And again, I know I've said it several times, but can't overemphasize the fact that everything's got to be straight, square, true, and flat right now. So when I started, I drew square lines on my neck area, so I would know that the headstock and the neck were not misaligned. They were in parallel with one another. The center lines were parallel. I made sure it was in plane. Where did my ruler go? Well, anyway, right? By making sure that the front of the neck and the front of the scarf joint are together and in the nice straight line of plane. They are. The top is flat and planed out. Everything is as it should be. I strongly recommend, when you're doing this, do some dry runs. Do some dry runs. Even there, and I knew pretty much exactly what I was going to do when, and I had it ready to go, boom, boom, boom. Even then, it moved on me because it's two inclined planes, right? So as you clamp it down, it wants to wedge them apart, right? Which is another reason why I have those square lines, so I can make sure that where the scarf joint is where the line is on the other one, so I make sure everything's good for this way, right? But as I started to clamp down, it wanted to do this. And as I went to move it, it was already starting to grab. So it doesn't take long. You gotta make sure that you're ready to go. Anyway, all right, that's that segment. Okay, so yesterday when we finished up, we had glued the scarf joint, and now I just took it out of the clamps, and this is what we have. So this is at our 13-degree headstock right here. Here's where the fretboard is going to go. And as you can see, well, you can't actually see that well right now, but there's where the scarf joint begins. This was all cut with a bandsaw, right? And then this is the natural wood, and then this is natural wood. You can't really tell because, anyway. So this is the neck that we have right now. The next step will be